Welcome to WrestleMania.
Ooh, yeah! I am the game! Woo!
Yes! I will give you a show like you have never, ever seen before. Why? Because I am
the best there is, the best there was, and the best that there ever will be.
You will rest in peace. What you gonna do when the whole world falls? I mean, destroy
and that's
you.
the bottom line, 'cause Stone Cold says it.
Hello all and welcome to another edition of your boy the Lex Man's WrestleMania Review Series. And today we look at 10 years in the making, the night where Bret the Hitman Hart became written in the annals of WrestleMania history. That night is WWF WrestleMania 10. This show is known for two classics. The first one was Brother versus Brother. Bret Hart versus Owen Hart. And then, of course, the first ever broadcast ladder match. In terms of all the WrestleMania so far, WrestleMania 10 is the best WrestleMania in terms of wrestling quality. Now, superstar quality in terms of big names, it does dip. And that's going to happen when most of your people leave. This WrestleMania doesn't have Hulk Hogan. If I'm not mistaken, this is the first WrestleMania to not have Hulk Hogan on the card at all because he's in WCW, as well as Mean Gene, Bobby the Brain Heenan. And next year, we'll get more people leaving. And then the year after that, more people leaving. And then the year after that, more people leaving. We'll start to see a trend of people leaving and going to WCW around this time. Now, when we get to the Attitude Era, things will get better. But until then, expect the next few WrestleManias to have a very low dip in superstars. With that said, I dare say the first 9, C+, C-, and then WrestleMania 9's grade last year was so bad. But overall, they've been okay. They've been passable in terms of match quality. But it's not about the match quality. It was about the superstars and the big names. And that's what made them big. These shows won't have that, but as a replacement, we'll get good match quality. And trust me, the next few WrestleManias, other than the next one I talk about, we are going to love. WrestleMania 12, 13, and then 14. Those 3, I'm going to have a good time talking about. Let's get into this show, though. Couple of details, as always, before we get to the actual matches. WrestleMania 10 took place in the same arena as WrestleMania 1, Madison Square Garden in New York, New York. A great culmination of 10 years for WrestleMania. It always makes sense to go back home. And we'll do it again for WrestleMania 20. We don't do it again for WrestleMania 30, but that's neither here or there. Jim Ross is not on this show because he was fired. Twice. I think the first time he was fired basically because his contract expired and they did not want to renew it. It literally expired in February, right before WrestleMania 10 started. So that's why he's not on this show and Vince McMahon is on play-by-play. However, they do hire him back only to fire him again when he gives out information to journalists. You'll start to see a trend with Jim Ross where he gets fired and brought back and fired and brought back. That's just how it is. Jim Ross has always had a rocky relationship with Vince McMahon in WWE. It won't be the last time he's fired, as you know, because he's not in WWE now. But you could never take anything away from Jim Ross as a play-by-play commentator. The first broadcast ladder match was Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon, but the first ever ladder match to take place in WWF was Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels in 1992. Which you can see on WWE's Coliseum videos. Or, actually, no, you can see it on WWE's Ladder Match DVD that came out in 2007. I think. I'm not too sure if it's on that DVD, but I think it is. But either one you watch, you'll be able to see the match that way. I think this is the last WrestleMania for Randy Savage. This is, because he goes to WCW next year. And unlike others who eventually return, like Hogan, this is it. We do not see Randy Savage again on WrestleMania, and it's sad, because to me, he was one of those guys that can have a great match with anybody. There is also no Undertaker. Taker's streak continues next WrestleMania. Great. I gotta talk about that ugly match. But he was injured by Yokozuna in a casket match, and they put him off TV. He does return at SummerSlam to fight the fake Taker. Woo. I'm glad I'm not talking about that. And then Royal Rumble this year, we did the first ever double elimination finish. And this one was actually done pretty well. And then, of course, there's a big controversy around that. As a result, we have two, not one, but two world title matches on the show with both men getting a shot at Yokozuna. The story going in is that Bret Hart was wrestling twice, so he opens the show and then closes the show, and that just really added more to what we saw. Runtime was 2 hours and 45 minutes, 3 hours, awesome. Date was March 20th, 1994. Attendance, though, 18,065. It's nothing, bad, but compared to those other WrestleManias that had big numbers, again, star power. Star power needs to be there for people to come see you. We had Little Richard. Little Richard sing the national anthem. Did a great job. Loved his rendition. So let's go ahead and get into these matches. First match, Bret the Hitman Hart versus The Rocket, Owen Hart. What else is there to say? One of the best, not even best, but greatest feuds of all time. Brother versus brother. Everybody loves Bret, and Owen gets no respect, so he had to do this match to prove to the world that I am just as good, that he is just as good as his brother. And when I tell you that this is literally the best opener to a WrestleMania, period, I'm not joking you. It had everything you could want in a match. Work ethic, chemistry, fast-paced action, high-flying, mat wrestling, storytelling, great spots, and a great finish. I loved seeing Owen Hart celebrate the small moments, because the match started off with them locking up, and then Owen Hart would counter or break the hold, and he would celebrate, yeah, I'm a winner! It was great. But then it crescendoed slowly, but surely, into an amazing classic. Each move had a purpose. You know a match is good when you have me actually looking closely at what's happening. Because usually you kind of eyeball the match, you see them doing the suplex, you see them doing the side slam, but you're not actually seeing how it's executed. You're not actually paying attention to the counters, you're just kind of just watching them do it. With these guys, I was locked in. I was there. When they were countering each other, I was paying attention to how he countered it, wrist lock to a toe hold, all that stuff was done excellently. And they made it matter. It takes a lot to make things matter. But then it gets better when Bret has to sell his leg injury, which I love because it played a part in this match. Because usually Bret finishes his opponents off with the sharpshooter. That's his submission move. Well, he couldn't do it. He couldn't do the sharpshooter tonight because he had to work a leg injury. I love that. That was awesome. So you know who did the sharpshooter? Owen did. Owen stole the sharpshooter. And the best part of this entire ordeal was the ending. We see Bret Hart on the shoulders of Owen. He goes to do that victory roll, but then Owen reverses it into a pin, and then he beats him. Clean. No excuses, no cheating. Owen Hart beats Bret the Hitman Hart clean in the center of the ring. It was a shocking finish, but it was an awesome finish. And of course, he bragged about it. He did an interview with Todd Pettengill, because we don't have Mean Gene anymore. And he talks about how he is now the best there is and the best there was and the best ever will be because he beat the best there is. What made Owen Hart, to me, a great heel, despite him being an arrogant prick or a douchebag, he always backed up what he said. Because, usually the heels cheat. They always go through underhanded means to get to where they are. So it validates fans when they boo him. Because when he says he's great, when he cheats, it proves that he's not as good as he says he is. Owen Hart didn't cheat. For the most part, he won most of his matches clean. And that gave him such validation as a heel. Because he constantly rubbed it in our faces. Bret Hart was over. Massively over. And when fans saw him lose to Owen, they were pissed at Owen. But they couldn't do anything about it because he beat him clean. An amazing match, definitely a classic. If you haven't seen it, please go out of your way to see this match. A lot of great things coming from this feud alone. I didn't talk about the ring announcer. Apparently we had a new ring announcer, Bill Dunn, who introduced the real ring announcer, Howard Finkel, or the Fink himself. And I already told you that Vince McMahon was on commentary, but I didn't tell you who was his partner, Jerry the King Lawler. That's right, this is his WrestleMania debut as a commentator. Eventually, we get to that pairing. But that won't happen until, I think, WrestleMania 13. I think we got a little ways off before we get to Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler. But that's coming. Second match is Bam Bam Bigelow and Luna Vachon taking on Doink the Clown and Dink. Dink is Doink's midget friend. I'm sorry. I'm not a fan of the midget wrestlers. I am not a fan of those midget wrestlers. But I will say, I was surprisingly entertained by this match. I don't know what it was. I thought Luna and Dink actually had good chemistry. And I thought the right person went over. I liked it. There were no issues. Bam Bam Bigelow beats Doink the Clown. And then afterwards, Luna beats up Dink. Yeah, I was fine with it. I wish more midget matches were like that. Let's not talk about the WrestleMania 3 match. But let's talk about the fake, obvious imposter Bill Clinton we had on the show. And what makes me mad about this is that he actually played it up like it was the real Bill Clinton. Come on, Vince. Now, this isn't the only time they try to play up the imposters. We'll get to those guys in 1996 when two other people leave WWF for WCW. Moving on to the Falls Count Anywhere match. Now, this Falls Count Anywhere match is not like your typical Falls Count Anywhere where you pin on 1, 2, 3 and you win. No, in this match, not only do you have to pin them on the outside, but then you have to go back into the ring and the person that was pinned has to answer a 60-second count on the outside. If he doesn't, he loses. A bit flawed, kind of weird, but I was okay with it. This is the only time they do this Falls Count Anywhere match like this, and then it's just a regular, you pin on the outside, 1, 2, 3, and that's it. But it was Randy Savage, Macho Man Randy Savage. Ooh, yeah, dig it! Taking on Crush with Mr. Fuji. As the final match for Macho Man Randy Savage in WWF, at least for WrestleMania, it was pretty solid. It wasn't bad. It wasn't amazing. It's not a classic. But it's a match I am okay being his final match. Because there were a couple of spots in here I actually adored. Especially the ending, where we have Savage and Crush backstage. And Savage ties Crush's leg to a post backstage so he can't answer a 60-second count, which I actually thought was hilarious. Man, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to follow up his work. A few people do, but not many will. Because Randy Savage is one of the greatest of all time. Top 10, absolutely. Rest in peace. This is when Alundra Blaze, aka Medusa, was the champion at the time. And do you remember Leonie Kai? Neither do I. But she came back and she fought in what was basically a highlight match for Alundra. And then we get to this freaking awful match. WWF Tag Team Championship. The Quebecers with Johnny Polo, you might know him as Quote the Raven, Nevermore Raven. They took on Men on a Mission. Mabel, aka Viscera, and Mo, with a guy named Oscar who rapped their entrance. Yes, before there was R-Truth, there was Oscar. The match was bad. The crowd didn't care. Seriously, they just sat there. They just sat on their hands going, okay, it's happening. Who cares? And honestly, I don't blame them because I didn't care either. Considering who was in the match, it was as good as it really could have been. I don't expect anything but a C. And they didn't even get that. Men on a Mission win by the count out. The Quebecers keep the championships. And I just want to move on. Let's move on because this match was horrible. Next up is the first of 2 WWF World Title matches. Okay, let's pause for a minute and talk about Lex Luger. The total package, Lex Luger. Vince McMahon tried so hard. He tried so hard to get people to like Lex Luger. They tried everything to get him over. They made him wear a U.S. attire to make him feel patriotic and U.S. born, USA. Can't go wrong with that. They gave him a Lex Express where fans get to actually ride with women on it. They put women with him. Trust me, they did everything possible to get him over. And there is such a thing of doing too much, because that's exactly what happened. They did so much with him that it just felt fake. It didn't work. He fell flat. And by the summer, he was done. Nobody cared. This match does not help his case either. This is the first world title match. Special guest referee was Mr. Perfect because Mr. McMahon had 2 surprise special guest referees to do their matches. Yokozuna with Mr. Fuji, and Jim Cornette, by the way. I didn't mention that, but Jim Cornette was the second manager of Yokozuna. He took on Lex Luger, and my God, where do I start? Let's start with the fact that by the time this match ended, the crowd was chanting bullshit. The match was so bad that the crowd was chanting bullshit. That's how you know it failed. Yokozuna phoned it in. I don't know if Yokozuna's matches were bad because of him, the performer, or because of his health. Because I heard he was in bad shape around this time. Regardless, I understand he was trying to save his energy because he had to wrestle again. But come on, try! He didn't even try. But then we got a horrible finish where Mr. Perfect sees Lex Luger attack the managers. And then Mr. Perfect, instead of doing the count, checks on the managers. Lex Luger shoves him, and then Mr. Perfect throws out the match. Oh, what an awful, awful freaking finish to what was an average match to begin with. And that just made it even worse. Bad match. Horrible match. And I dare say, this killed Lex Luger's momentum. You wonder why Lex Luger leaves WWF at the end of the year, do you? I think this match might be a part of that. I'm just saying. Next up, we have Earthquake versus Adam Bomb. Earthquake beats him in 32 seconds. It's a squash match, so I'm not going to give it a grade. I think next is the ladder match, right? Yes. Before I went into the match, I myself was having some conflict because I was having trouble trying to judge, exactly find a way to judge this match. Let's be real. In terms of the bumps and the style of the match, does it compare or does it hold up to the Money in the Bank matches or that crazy TLC match at WrestleMania 17? It doesn't, in a sense. But here's how I see the match. Imagine seeing a ladder match for the first time in your life. You've never seen Jeff Hardy. You've never even heard of the Hardy Boys or the Dudley Boys. Never seen any of the Money in the Bank matches. This is the first ladder match you see. And judging off of that, yes, I will say it is a classic. We have the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, and Razor Ramon. This match is a match that I really implore every wrestling fan to see. I know we're used to seeing extreme bumps. I know we're used to seeing flaming tables and Jeff Hardy killing himself. I understand that. But think about this. This is in 1994. Think about how innovative this match was for its time. On top of that, we have 2 of the best wrestlers to ever do it, Shawn Michaels and Scott Hall, Razor Ramon. They were bumping and selling, falling on concrete on the outside, falling on the ropes, jumping off ladders, falling off ladders. That crowd lost their minds during this match. It was such a spectacle to watch. And it's a match, in my opinion, that never gets old. Even right now, although I've been spoiled, and I'll admit, I've been spoiled with the Jeff Hardys and the Dudley Boys and the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian and TLC's, Tables, Ladders, and Chairs. I've seen it all. Even being spoiled, I have to say this match is one of the greatest matches in WrestleMania history. The bar eventually does get raised, but that's not till much later. Definitely a classic. Razor Ramon walks out as your legit WWF Intercontinental Champion. And I love that finish. I love when Shawn Michaels falls on the ropes and he ties his leg in the ropes too. That was so smooth and so well worked. Just an awesome match all around. I don't see how anybody can say this is not a classic. We have the second WWF World Heavyweight Championship match. Special guest referee was Roddy Piper. Yokozuna with Mr. Fuji and Jim Cornette taking on Bret the Hitman Hart. Bret had to carry Yokozuna despite the fact that he was selling a leg injury. Again, Yokozuna, whether it was his health or him just not being a good worker, he just didn't do it for me. He was extremely slow and not fun to watch at all. He just worked in his comfort zone as a big man. With that said, the finish was done very well because he was going for that bonsai drop and then he accidentally falls off the ropes and Bret Hart pins him 1, 2, 3. And he wins. And a Cinderella story, if you will say, he wins his second WWF World Championship. And then we see all the baby faces. We see Tatanka, we see Lex Luger, we see Piper, we see... I think I saw Hardcore Holly. They lifted Bret on their shoulders. The crowd was going crazy. The crowd loved it. That pop that he got when he won was phenomenal. No offense to AJ Styles, but it was phenomenal. I thought it was great. Such a great ending. And to me, if I remember WrestleMania 10 for anything else, I remember it being the night where Bret Hart went from just being a superstar to being a legend. This is the night where Bret Hart, in my opinion, crossed that threshold into being one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. As he should, because he is an amazing performer. Now, I should say this. Bret Hart does have an amazing classic with Owen Hart at SummerSlam this year. Their steel cage match is one of legends. Please go see it. Do yourself a favor and go see it. It is an amazing match. I've seen it more than once. I can tell you. One of the greatest matches of all time. Next year's WrestleMania 11. Pray for me. Pray for me. I gotta talk about that. Like, subscribe, share, Twitter, Facebook, everything down below in that description box. Let me go torture myself again for WrestleMania 11. Y'all better watch it. Because I'm doing this for you. This is your boy, the Lex Man, signing off. Into Lex Man's world. Take it easy. Peace.